Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score studio. Welcome to the show. Real quick, if you haven't seen my episode on Cerinthian, great word, make sure you check it out at some point because this brand new spoiler had me saying, wait, this is real? But don't leave just yet because on this episode, we're going to be talking about a brand new commander and one, which I am saying, break it now, break it, and blame Eddie in the comments below. Because Eddie definitely helped out on this one, and yeah, if I make any mistakes on it, it's Eddie's fault, not mine. Although that said, let's jump into it. So, Gwena, Eyes of Gaea, is a 2/3 Elf Druid Scout that costs 2 and a green and has tap, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of a creature or creature card. On top of that, whenever you cast a creature spell with 5 or greater, put a +1 counter on Gwenna, Eyes of Gaea, and untap it. So, whenever you have a card that, well, can produce mana, and also has a way to untap, well, okay, at least when I ever see one of those, immediately I go, yeah, how in the world do I break this? Because, well, if I can tap this and somehow cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, and untap it, and I can somehow keep doing that again, and again, and again, well, I could just do this, as many times as I wanted to if there were a certain combination. Obviously, the perfect way to do this would be if there was a creature that literally just cost 1 mana in green, or actually, well, I mean, yes, it would have to be in green, or, an artifact creature, essentially, that somehow had 5 power and was like, hey, when I enter the battlefield, return a creature you control to your hand, like a Shimmering Drake type of effect. Unfortunately, yeah, I looked here, there, and everywhere, and that specific card does not exist. So yeah, to my knowledge, there is no 1-card combination with this commander. But if I am mistaken, please let me know. And I, of course, am going to be asking you, after I show you kind of the different variations that I have found and ways that we can go about this, I'm going to be asking you to improve on it. I'm asking you to make it even better. I'm going to be asking you to make this happen. Now, does this commander have to be built in that way? Absolutely not. And the vast majority of decks built around it probably will not because, yeah, I mean, you can just get a ton of value out of this kind of a commander. I mean, it's a low to the ground, 3 mana commander. You get down. Next turn, you play your land. You're essentially at 6 mana for a creature spell as long as that creature spell has 5 or more power. You're getting 2 of that mana back, essentially, and then you could just tap this again for even more value. So, I mean, technically, on turn 4, you've kind of got access to, like 8 mana in the right situation. So, yeah, focusing your deck on, creatures that have power 5 or greater, utilizing this commander to the fullest. In green, there are plenty of creatures that, are pretty low to the ground that have a decent amount of power and can do some very, very cool things. Maybe you also go into counters and, those strategies because obviously this commander can get a lot of counters on it as well. And yeah, I mean, you could pretty easily turn your commander at least into a 2-shot KO at a certain point. And yeah, I mean, if you double strike it, yeah, sure. 1-shot KO if you got something like a Fire Shrieker. So yeah, there are definitely a lot of ways that you could take this commander. But I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole that was, well, what was happening in my mind when I saw this card. So, with all that said, well, first up, if you are interested in this commander, make sure you check out the card list link in the description below, because when new exciting commanders like this one are spoiled, sometimes cards that happen to work really well with them tend to go up in price sooner rather than later. So, with all that said, let's jump into those cards. So yeah, one of the first places my mind went when I saw this commander was, okay, how do I get the most out of this commander's ability to tap for mana? How do I get those creatures out even more efficiently? Well, cost reducers such as, Emerald Medallion, Ronos' Monument, and Cloud Key can help us out. Emerald Medallion says green spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and yeah, that's just a great card in a mono green deck. It can reduce the cost of, well, all of your non-artifact spells, essentially, for the most part. I mean, some artifacts do if they're green, but yeah, you know what I mean. Essentially, this is going to help us cast, all of our creatures, our green creatures, at a reduced cost, so our commander can become even more impactful and can help get even more out. Again, let's say we've got a couple of creatures that have 5 power. Let's just say, for argument's sake, they cost 5 each, okay? we, cast one of them essentially for 4 mana, tapping our commander for 2. So we're really only paying 2 mana, from like, say, other mana dorks or from our lands or whatnot. Then our commander is going to untap and say we've got another one in our hand, for 5 mana. And again, actually 5 mana might be on the high end for some of these creatures that we're talking about. But yeah, we can cast another one then for just 2 mana, essentially kind of, again, utilizing our commander's ability, utilizing that cost reduction. Cost reduction can go very far with a commander like this, especially with a card like Ronus's Monument. Green creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so this is much more specific, and it says whenever you cast a creature spell, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. So we can make our creatures even deadlier as we are again getting a cost reduction on them. We're, just cast even more and more of them. We, pump some ones that are already in play, get them even larger, get them trample, get some damage through, and obviously, I will just mention this now before we go through any kind of, combo pieces. If this is in play and you're growing infinite, yeah, whatever creatures you have on the board are infinitely large then too, so have fun with that. Or yeah, even a Cloud Key can help us out. When it enters the battlefield, choose artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, or sorcery. Spells you cast the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. So yeah, obviously with this kind of a deck, we'd be choosing creature, reduce that cost again, and make our commander even more efficient at getting creatures out. And for even bigger efficiencies, we can look towards cards like Centaur Omen Reader, Crozin Drover, and Ezerut Channeler. The Omen Reader says as long as it's tapped, creature spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, so yeah, this does have to essentially, we have to find a way to actually tap it in some way, like, like with, what's that drum called? Spring something drum? This is gonna bug me now. Springleaf Drum, there we go. I'm sure some of you are shaking your head right there, like, how does Mitch miss that this way? It's early, okay? Clearly need more coffee. Anyways, so either finding a way to tap this or, yeah, just having it survive in combat, essentially, sending it in and then having it tapped. So then in our second main phase, we can actually, cast our creatures at a reduced cost, and 2 is a ton. Again, especially when we can essentially get, even more mana out of our commander when we're casting bigger creatures. Speaking of bigger creatures, Crozin Drover, not a big creature itself, has creature spells you cast with converted mana cost 6 or greater, cost 2 less to cast. So again, a massive cost reduction for those creatures that are going to cost 6 or more, and yeah, we're going to have plenty of those in this deck, most likely. Again, ones that have a lot of power that we can get into play, like, Ezerut Channeler. Or I should say, it has, that high converted mana cost, not a lot of power, but regardless, this one can also help us. Creature spells you cast cost X less to cast, or X the amount of life you gained this turn, and by tapping this, we gain 2 life. So at the very least, just by tapping this, we can reduce the cost of our creatures by 2, and again, that is a ton. And of course, obviously, if we've got other ways to gain life, that can be even more and make our turn even more absurd. Speaking of absurd, though, another kind of card to consider, though, is a card like Tangleroot, which can benefit your opponents, but most likely is going to be benefiting you the most. It says whenever a player casts a creature spell, that player adds green to their mana pool. So for every creature spell that you cast, you are getting an additional green mana. And again, though your commander is limited on what you can utilize that mana for, again, just on creature spells, just on activated abilities, creature spells, and creature cards, this allows you to essentially just get a free green mana that you can then utilize for anything. It can be, non-creature, essentially. But perhaps in an even bigger way, there is Mana Reflection, which says if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces twice as much of that mana instead. And yeah, doubling up your mana is obviously a very, very powerful thing. Obviously this doubles up your lands, but it also doubles up your mana dorks too, like your commander. So now your commander is tapping for 4 mana, essentially, just allowing you to cast even more creature spells. Again, in our previous example, where, we have creatures that, have 5 power and they cost 5. And again, that might be on the high end of what a green creature like that actually costs in a deck like this. But yeah, essentially, we'd be tapping our commander for 4 out of the 5 mana. And we just need 1 other mana to actually just cast it and untap our commander and do it again with another creature. So yeah, a mana doubler can be absolutely incredible with this commander, whether we are, trying to combo or not with it. But of course, when it comes to a combo, a mana tripler is going to be better. And at this point, this is basically the best that I came up with, and I would like you to help me make it better. Now, actually, okay, the best I came up with. There is actually another card we can swap out that makes this a bit more impactful, but we'll talk about it here in a bit. This is basically just the base version of it, okay? Now I'm rambling on. My apologies. Here we go. Nyx Bloom Ancient, first up, is a 5/5 with trample, so yeah, having 5 power, we can actually, untap our commander, recast it with this. Anyways, Nyx Bloom Ancient says if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. Which, of course, is a ton, and yeah, with that, we can do some pretty crazy things, because now our commander is going to be tapping for 6. Again, specifically just for creature spells and creature abilities, but still. There are, of course, plenty of fantastic creature spells and abilities that we can take advantage of when our commander is doing that. And yes, Temur Sabertooth combos with quite a few things. Regardless, here we go. Temur Sabertooth has pay 1 and a green. You may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Temur Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. So we have this setup, and all we need, in addition to it, would just be a creature that costs 3 or less mana, essentially, that has 5 power, in order to basically produce infinite mana for our creature spells and creature effects, essentially, with our commander. And Mir Superion is a very funny one that meets that requirement, because it is a 5/6 Mir for just 2 mana, but it does have the requirement that you can only spend mana produced by creatures to cast it. So yeah, your commander, obviously, is one of those sources that can help cast it. And yeah, actually, just Mir Superion in a deck like this, sure, you can utilize it because, yeah, your commander just taps for 2. Normally, you cast it, you untap your commander, and you just got a 5/6 out. Cool, it doesn't do anything else, but in this combo, it definitely does. Because, yeah, basically what we do is, tap our commander for 6. We, cast Mir Superion with 2 of that mana. And then, our commander says, hey, that had 5 power, cool. I'll get a counter, I'll untap. Then we utilize 2 more of that mana that is floating again, so we have 2 left out of that 6. We utilize that 2 that we're using for Temur Sabertooth to return Mir Superion back to our hand. Temur Sabertooth gains indestructible until turn. Great! But yeah, Mir Superion's in our hand. We've got 2 extra mana floating. Cool. We leave that mana be. We tap our commander again. We had 6 more mana. We've got 8. And we can just keep doing this again and again and again, adding 2 mana each time to that pool. So basically, again, we've got infinite mana for creatures and creature abilities. If we've got any other creatures with ETBs, we can utilize Temur Sabertooth to just, use that ETB again and again and again an infinite number of times. So yeah, there are plenty of ways to win from there. And I really was trying to get this into a 2-card combo of some sort, and I really didn't want to have to lean on Temur Sabertooth to do this. So yeah, if you can find a 2-card combo, or my goodness, a 1-card combo of this commander, which I looked everywhere. There's no way I missed it. There is a way I missed it. I really hope I missed it. But please let me know. Let me know if you can find a 2-card combo that works with this. Thank you. And when I'm saying that, I guess I mean 2 cards in addition to our commander. There we go. Now, when it comes to a creature that is superior to Superion, see what I did there? Yeah, okay, bad. Anyways, Ronus the Indomitable is one that comes to mind. A 5/5 god with Death Touch Indestructible that costs 2 and a green. So again, it meets our requirement of being a creature with 3 cost or less that has 5 power. And it says it can't attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater. We will meet that requirement, which will be lovely, but yeah. On top of that, pay 2 and a green, the other target creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. So again, since this one costs 3, essentially we can do the exact same loop, but every single time we're netting 1 mana instead of 2. Again, that really doesn't matter since you can do it as many times as you want. So yeah, basically the result is infinite mana, again, that you can utilize for creature spells and for creature, abilities. And yeah, this one has an ability, obviously, so we can just, infinitely pump our creatures, give them trample, and yeah, whatever ones can attack, we can just take our opponents out right then and there. But of course, again, there are other ways to win with that infinite, creature mana, essentially. Again, use ETBs, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, in this combination, you definitely have some replacements for that Mir Superion or other ones that can kind of take that same spot in certain circumstances. And yeah, if they've got an ability like Ronus, they can definitely be very impactful. And like I mentioned before, yeah, you do not have to go in a combo direction, and I bet most people will not go in a combo direction. And yeah, Ronus, the Indomitable, can still be an amazing card in this kind of a deck, because again, with this commander, Ronus kind of just costs a single mana, really, because, you tap your commander for 2, utilize another mana, to actually cast it. You get into play, you untap your commander because it had 5 power, and then you go on to cast even more creatures, and yeah, this can definitely snowball and get out of control with a commander like this. Now, speaking of snowballing and getting out of control, yeah, Eddie brought up this kind of 2-card combo, but also requires other cards, but yeah, this is the pieces of the combo. Still, I'll give you credit, Eddie. Great job. Anyways, Cloud So Curio, Colony Hydra is another way you could technically go infinite, though you do need, I believe, 8 green creatures already in play as well, and yeah, one of those has to, basically just cost a single green mana. Regardless, Cloudstone Curio says whenever a non-artifact permanent comes into play under your control, you may turn another permanent you control that shares a permanent type with it to its owner's hand. And then Colony Hydra is an 8/8 Hydra, so yeah, meets that power requirement of 5, and it costs green, 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 so 8 mana in total. It's going to cost green less, though, for each green creature you control. So, yeah, basically, if you've got 8 green creatures in play, this is free. So, essentially, yeah, cast it for free. Bounce, one of those 1-mana green creatures back to your hand. And we'll talk about a quick example here in a bit. But, yeah, bounce one of those back to your hand. Tap your commander. Utilize one of that mana to cast, that green creature for 1. Essentially, you've got 1 extra mana floating. You then, use that green creature's ETB with the Cloudstone Curio to bounce the Colony Hydra back to your hand. You cast it again for free, and then your commander untaps. Because, keep in mind, your commander does say whenever you cast a creature spell 5 or greater, it does not specify that you need to utilize that mana that your commander is producing to do so, so please keep that in mind. So yeah, a technically free creature like Colony Hydra would work with this. And yeah, that creature could be a variety of things, but yeah, one other thing that you might want to do with a commander like this is lean heavily into, mana dorks, like, Llanowar Elves. Cost a single green, taps for green, very low to the ground, very efficient, and yeah, then you can take advantage of, other untap effects, like maybe a Great Oak Guardian, or like a Vitalized to untap all your creatures, and yeah, get even more value out of your creatures tapping, including your commander. So yeah, just definitely things to consider. Now, one other thing to consider, like I mentioned earlier, maybe another direction that you might want to go with this deck, or something else that you might want to keep in mind, is leaning heavy into, those ++1 counters. Like, your commander gets, again, every single time it's going to, have a creature come into play with power 5 or greater. It's going to get that counter. It's going to untap. So Hardened Scales can really help you out. An enchantment for just a green mana, very low to the ground. If one or more +1 counters we put on a creature you control, that many +1 counters are put on it instead. Basically, double up that effect every single time. Your commander will become absolutely massive. And yeah, become a giant threat for your opponents. And probably, again, take them out in a 2-shot KO, or maybe even a 1-shot KO if you're building kind of more of a Voltron feel with this commander, which you can definitely go in that direction too. But when it comes to some commanders that actually might want to utilize this brand new card in the 99 of their decks, and thank you, Eddie, for mentioning these, Animar Soul of Elements, yeah, it can be a fantastic one. A 1/1 with Pro White and Pro Black. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a counter on Animar Soul of Elements, and creatures you cast cost 1 less to cast for each counter on Animar. So you can definitely build up those counters quite quickly, and yeah, Animar can essentially handle that generic part of the cost, when it comes to those giant creatures. And Gwena can handle, again, the non-generic part of that cost for you, because you can add that to mana in any combination of colors. So yeah, this can kind of be a match made in heaven in a way where you essentially just, yeah, you are going to be reducing that cost of your creatures essentially basically down to nothing. And yeah, there are probably some incredible combos that you can utilize with this when you can essentially, again, have the generic cost covered because of that reduction, have, those other pieces covered because of your, new card. And again, it untaps when you're casting those massive creatures. So have fun, Animar decks, as if you weren't scary enough already. Yet another commander, though, that might want to consider this new card, though, is Raga Draga Gorgut's Boss, a mana dork commander, because each creature you control a mana ability gets +2/+2. Whenever a creature you control a mana ability attacks, untap it, which is lovely. And whenever you cast a spell, if at least 7 mana was spent to cast it, untap target creature, it gets +7/+7 against trample till end of turn. Yeah, basically, this is the type of commander that can really utilize a new card like this one. You can just keep untapping it a ton throughout the game. Because, yeah, if you cast a creature spell that has, 7 mana, essentially to cast it, and, it also has 5 or more power, you're essentially going to be able to untap this new card twice because, the trigger essentially with this Raga Draga, and its own trigger when that creature comes into play. So you can make it quite massive and do some crazy things. And one final commander I'm going to bring up that I mentioned as well is Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsisma. Now, Goreclaw, again, kind of like Animar, can help handle the generic cost of creatures, though Goreclaw does say creature spells you cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. And on top of that, whenever Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsisma attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1 against trample till end of turn. Now, if you have a Goreclaw deck and you're really focused very heavily on creatures, with exactly 4 power essentially, so you can be incredibly efficient, obviously this brand new card really doesn't help you out in that way because, yeah, you kind of need creatures with 5 power. But again, if you've got, more on the high power end above that 4 power, some at 4 and, more over, 5 and greater, then yes, I think this could be a great card in a Goreclaw deck and can really do a ton of work for you. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on Gwena, Eyes of Gaea. Yeah, I definitely was trying to look very hard to find the perfect combination of cards. Again, I was hoping to do it in, 2, essentially. But yeah, I mean, we got there in 3 cards. Please, 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 if you can find a way, if you can think of a way to essentially do a 2-card combo with this commander, I mean, 2 plus this. I don't imagine, again, that there is a single card that comes with this. But again, if I missed it, my goodness did I miss it. So yeah, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know what kind of a deck you would build around this commander. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. And of course, make sure you're staying tuned for even more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thank you again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.